All right, so let's look at the Hebrew of the second half of Jonah 2:4. Now I'm going to warn you, this one gets hardcore. We are in the final stretch. It may seem hard to believe because we're only in chapter 2, but we are in the final stretches of learning Hebrew. We have two main things to learn. We need to learn what are called the stems. We've already started getting hints of that. I've shown you the Hiph'il or HTD. I've shown you the Hiph'il or the N stem. We're beginning to get into the stems. The other part is what are called weak verbs. Weak verbs, I've also mentioned, these are where one of the three core consonants is a little wonky for some reason. Well, we're going to get into both of them in this latter part of this verse. Again, do not stress because we're just easing you into it. First time you see it, no problem. The second or third time, you begin to catch on, and then eventually it's solidified and systematized. So don't stress. Enjoy it. This is fun. Fun stuff about Hebrew. This is going to be fun. That's one word for it. All right, see if you can pronounce this second part of the verse. Here's how I would pronounce it. Ach, osif, laha, beat, el, heikal the palace, kad, sheka. Okay, so let's look at this in greater depth here. So ach is like perhaps or nevertheless. It can actually have kind of two different meanings. It can have a indeed, a kind of a exclamation mark kind of sense to it, but it can also have a acceptive or nevertheless a kind of a sense to it, perhaps. And there are different translations, by the way, of this. In some, I think the RSV translates it as a question even. Perhaps I will add to look to the palace of your holiness, which is, I think, probably a reference to the temple. And basically, Jonah is saying, maybe I will see your temple again one day. Okay, that may seem a little bit innocuous. What do we know about here? Well, you should know, for example, well, that's just, perhaps it's just a word, no problem. You know la, which means to. You know el, which means to. You know ka, which means your. This is to the palace of your holiness or something like that. Kadash is the word for holy, important word in Hebrew. So the aleph you might know as well. It is the imperfect first common singular, and that's where the I comes from. It's imperfect, so that's where the I will comes from. All right, so you know a lot of stuff about this. Let's now dig into some of the fun stuff. All right, so both osif and ha-beat, both of these are what are called the H stem or the Hiph'il stem. We know the Hiph'il stem, that's the make it passive stem. I mentioned a long time ago that the Hiph'il or HTD stem is the reflexive stem, the do-it-to-yourself stem. The H stem or Hiph'il stem is what we call a causative stem. It's to cause something to happen. We actually saw it back when God caused a wind to blow. And so this is I will cause to add, to look. Perhaps I will cause to add. Perhaps again it'll happen. Don't make too much of it. Sometimes the causative aspect is clearer than others. So here, to cause to look. Perhaps I will add to cause to look. Not good English, but fine Hebrew. Notice the H on habit. It's a habit, looking is a habit. But the hey here is the key to the H stem. Now, I know you're going to say, well, where's the hey on the osif? I'm sorry, there isn't one. But it's imperfect. The H on the front is mostly in the perfect for the H stem. Don't worry about it. The biggest telltale sign, the big sign, the first sign to know, aside from the H, is this Hirik Yod after the second consonant. So notice this Hirik Yod here and that Hirik Yod there. A Hirik Yod after the second consonant of a verb is a telltale sign that you're looking at the causative stem or the H stem or the Hiph'il stem. And a lot of times it will have a hey on the front of it. Okay, so that's the first thing in this video that I want you to learn, begin to learn at least. We'll systematize the Hiph'il stem later, so don't worry, you'll see it all systematically later. The H stem. The second thing I want you to know are there are a couple weak verbs. Both of these verbs here that are in the H stem are both weak. What I mean by that is, so osif is a first yod verb. I know you're thinking, well, that's not a yod there, that's a vav. This is one of the quirky things about verbs that begin with a yod, is that in the imperfect, sometimes the yod becomes a holem vav. Strange. It's a strange thing. Again, you don't need to know these things now. I'm just trying to get you in the mood for what we will do in one of the later units. We're going to do stems now primarily for the next lessons, but eventually we'll have the weak verbs. We'll have a section on the weak verbs, and then we'll be done. We'll be through Jonah. So osif is a weak verb that is a first yod. And one of the funny things that first yods do is sometimes the first yod becomes a holem vav in the imperfect. So this is a Hiph'il imperfect. There's the aleph. First common singular because of the aleph, and it's from Yasaf. Joseph adds, I mean, he added a lot of children, right? Joseph had 12 children, so Joseph kept adding and adding and adding. So that might help you remember that Yasaf is to add or to do again. The second one, lahabit, it's a couple new things. First of all, the hey does tell me that it is a hey, an H imperfect. It is an H imperfect. I'm sorry, it is an H. It's not an imperfect, but it is an H stem. And it has the hirik yod tell you. Now, it's also a first nun. We know we've seen these before, and the more we see them, the more I'm going to expect you to know them. But nun assimilates when no vowel separates. So what has happened to the first nun, this is actually from nabat. And the first nun, because it was right next to the bet, has assimilated, sucked in, and has become a doubled bet. That's a doubled bet. I bet you it's a doubled bet. So habit is a first nun verb, another kind of weak verb. First yods are weak, first nuns are weak, because nun assimilates when no vowel separates. So it is from navat. It is an H stem, and it's a new kind of form that I'm just going to tell you now. We'll learn it later, but I just want to tell you it exists. This is called an infinitive construct. It's translated to look, right? It's like English. An infinitive English is the word to with a verb. To dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe. That's an infinitive. To dream, to fight. And so here is our first, well, I don't know. We've probably had them before. I just haven't mentioned it. This is the first infinitive construct I'm mentioning. La habit. It's a H, Hiph'il, infinitive construct from navat. Okay, that's enough. You've had enough. I'm sure you have. You never thought that just that one little line would have so much complication in it. What did we learn? We learned that there are these things called weak verbs, like first yods and first nuns, and they're scary. No, they're not. They're fun. It's like a detective novel. Things go away, and we have to figure out where it went. It's CSI. We also learned another stem, the H stem or Hiph'il stem, which is a causative stem. Often puts a hey on the front, especially in the perfect, but the key is the hirik yod after the second consonant. There we go. Onward.